Learning how to automate your business with AI is actually much simpler than it might seem. Now, let me be honest here. I have done over 50 different automation audits over the last 6 months for various different businesses. And most of the people that I hop on calls with would rather not deal with any of it. So they just pay me to do it for them. But if you're someone who's looking to implement AI automation into your business as soon as possible, this video is for you. Because I'm about to reveal my 4-step process that I use to figure out exactly how to automate any business. And also how you can build an automation today. Let's get into it. So this is how to learn AI to automate your business. Again, this is me. I'm Doby Linette, founder of Dobot AI, and I've done over 50 plus automation audits for different businesses across multiple agencies over the last 6 months. And here are the 4 steps to automate your business. All right, so step 1, we are going to list every repetitive task that you do. So this is you right now, and you have so many tasks in your head. And all those tasks, what we want to do is we want to transfer those over to a page. All of this is what I call the personal automation audit. And the main goal of this is just to get every single repetitive task out of your head and on paper. Whenever it's in your head, you get overwhelmed and it's very hard to delegate all the 100 tasks. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it on paper just so we can see everything. What we're looking for are the things that run multiple times and they're incredibly simple and there's tasks after tasks after tasks. So the best way to do this is to go through your business one department at a time. So first we're going to want to start off with sales, and I'd write down all the repetitive work there. Then we can move on to something like fulfillment, write all of that out. Then we move on to admin and then marketing. Now there's probably more divisions within your business, but just off of this alone, this is a good framework. These are the 4 main ones that we tend to build automations for because they're mainly the highest leverage. So right over here, I have a good example of different repetitive tasks that might show up in your business. So we might be talking about manually copying leads from forms. Maybe you're sending the first touch reply to every new inquiry. Maybe we're chasing unsigned proposals and unpaid invoices. Each of these can be completely automated. Next, onto that onboarding and delivering. Maybe you're still sending that welcome email, contract, and intake form. Maybe you're kicking off the same task checklist for every project, and so on and so forth. So we have the communication follow-up. Maybe you're copy pasting canned responses, admin and finance, updating spreadsheets. That's a big one. Or marketing and content. Maybe you're sending newsletters or tagging and sorting leads by source. Reporting, you're building the same report by hand. Or internal team ops, maybe you're still assigning tasks or onboarding new hires. The list goes on, but these are the main ones. So what you want to do, again, just recapping this first step, you're going to want to sit down, write absolutely everything that you do day to day in your business, just so we have a list of it on paper. So now we move on to step 2. And this step is my favorite. We want to score and rank them. So you can see these 2 top pieces right here. We have time and complexity. These are the 2 main things that come whenever you do this audit. Every single task you do takes time and has a certain amount of complexity or brain power that you need to add on. So in order to calculate your time, you're going to want to do time per task. So let's say we are sending emails out. Maybe that only takes 5 minutes. But our frequency is that we have 100 emails to send. So we do 5 times 100. So that maths out to 500 minutes. Now 500 minutes divided by 60, we're just run that quick math, 8 hours. That means you're spending 8 hours a day simply off emails. Now that's a pretty general example, but you can see how that could stack multiple times. Now the cool thing about this email example, that's around a 2 or a 3 in complexity. So yes, it's time consuming, but at least we're not putting a lot of mental energy where our focus needs to be completely undivided. Now we could do this in the bed, we could do this on the couch, doesn't really matter. We could send emails from anywhere. Now, once we have time and complexity mapped out, so you're going to want to take this time and complexity and run this statistic across every single element of your list. So from step 1, we made a list. So now we're going to want to rate and score each one. So let's say manually copying leads from forms DMs is something that you do, or maybe a team member does. Let's say that alone takes about 5 minutes. You get 100 leads per day. There we go. You're just going to want to write that out. 5 minutes, 100 leads per day, 500 minutes. That's how much this is saving you per day in this example. So here is the chart. So we have time and we graph this based next to complexity. You can see here that we have 4 different sections. So 4 quadrants that come whenever we map this out. We have low-hanging fruit, big projects, the nice to haves, and don't even bother. Where we want to start is that we want to start with where the time and the complexity, where the time is the highest and the complexity is the lowest. This is where we want to be. That is where we find the low-hanging fruit. Now, just to clarify, the way this makes sense is that if you are spending a lot of time on a task, but the complexity is low, which means it's automatable easily, that would mean that we have the best scenario to start. So for example, like I was saying, sending emails, what was that? We had a low complexity, but we had a high time. That makes it the easiest thing to automate to buy the most amount of time back. One note here is that most people waste their first automation on a big project and then burn out. So you want to start in the top left, bank the easy time savings, and then earn your way into the hard stuff. So from the low-hanging fruit angle here, this is where we move into the other section. So we can go from low-hanging fruit over to the nice-to-haves or the big projects. Before I get into the order of what to do after doing the low-hanging fruit, let me move into some examples first. So appointment reminders. Takes a bit of time to go check your calendar, see what's going on, make sure you remember it, but the complexity is pretty low. So this is a good example of a low-hanging fruit. I would always have appointment reminders. It's one of the first things that I build for myself. It's one of the first things I build for the companies that I work with. Now here we have the full quoting and proposal system. And if I zoom out so we can see what it matches to, this is a big project, right? High time, high complexity. Thing is, because it's high complexity, automating this will be more challenging. So it's not something that we want to touch right away. Now, having a full quoting and proposal system would be incredibly valuable, but it's not the lowest hanging fruit. We don't save the most amount of time immediately, especially that the trade-off is that this automation or / AI agent is harder to build. Now, down to the nice to haves, we have auto saving files. Low time, doesn't really take much time to save files, you just click download, but the complexity is also low. So it's not like we would save too much time if we were to build out an automation here. So it's really just a nice to have. And lastly, we have the year-end tax prep. It's low time, it only takes a couple hours, and since it's only once a year, doesn't really take that much time either, but the complexity is high. So this is why we make this bottom right quadrant here, don't even bother, because if it takes so little time, why would we spend a lot of time trying to build out a complex automation for something that would barely save us any time? Now let's talk about where we would go. So we know where to start, right? We start here, this is our low-hanging fruit. So where do we go from there? So we have these little blue sections. So we have worth it, but plan, and then we have do it when bored or extra time. These are the reasons why you do things. So like I said, with that note earlier, if you dive straight into this big projects, you're gonna burn out. It's going to be difficult to solve. And this is normally where we save a good amount of time if we get it right. So this is normally something that is a bit harder for non-technical people to have set up immediately. Now, this is why there is the but plan line here, completely worth it. Now, like a proposal system that can automatically generate the proposal, send the invoice, collect the invoice, that would be incredibly worth it. That takes so much time every single client. But what if it messes up? That's why we need to set a plan here, this section here, as an automations agency where we build the most amount of projects, because sometimes they have already solved their lowest hanging fruit, but they need an AI engineer or an automations engineer to assist with this build out. This second part here, do it when bored or extra time. If you just have extra time, because the complexity is still low and because the time is low, if you have extra time on your hands, you might as well build it out. But again, don't go into this section until you have every single bit of low hanging fruit built out. That is where you'll get the highest ROI, and every single time I work with a business, this is where we start. And lastly, again, the don't bother. I say don't bother, but genuinely, if you have finished every single thing in low-hanging fruit, every single thing inside of the worth it but plan, and everything inside of the do it when bored, yes, you can move over to the don't bother, but quite honestly, you might get a better return if you just hire somebody. So from this year-end tax prep, just hire an accountant, a CFO, a bookkeeper. They would do a better job at managing all of this rather than an AI, at least at this point. So now we move on to step 3. And that is pick what to automate first. So we talked about it a little bit in the other section already, but this is where we're just gonna break down exactly what it will look. So if you have high time, low complexity, you're gonna wanna solve using automations. A lot of times low complexity problems can be easily solved using automations, so we don't wanna use anything complex to do this. A lot of times high time, low complexity problems can be solved very quickly with the right tool set. Next, we have high time, high complexity. That is where we would solve that using AI agents. Things that require high complexity could technically also be solved using AI automations, but it really depends on the use case. A lot of the onboarding automations that we've built out were high time, high complexity, but with the introduction of Claude Code, we actually build them using AI agents now simply because it's easier to build and it's more efficient and it has more functionality that we weren't able to easily get with automations before. Low time, low complexity, we can solve using automation or multi-purpose agents. The reason why I say multi-purpose agents is because low time, low complexity tasks tend to be combined with a bunch of low time, low complexities tasks, which could be put together into one complex agent that handles it all. Or maybe we also want to categorize those files or put them into the right folder, and each of those low time, low complexity But when we put them all together, it can slowly start to increase the time and slowly start to increase the complexity. For that reason, you can build out a multi-purpose agent that solves multiple different symptoms of the main problem you have. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, but the disclaimer for high complexity, low time is if you have done all three. Now, I'm telling you, more than likely, if you think you've done all three, you haven't done all three. If you've done all three, you would never worry about operations ever again. So more than likely, you will never find yourself inside of this low time, high complexity. If you do find yourself in a low time, high complexity standard, more than likely you calculated the time versus complexity graph wrong, and it actually takes more time than you think. Here's just a couple examples of automation and agents. So what we have here, send appointment confirmations and reminders when a job's booked, right? Simple task. This could be medium to high time, simple complexity. So we want to automate that. Route a new lead to the right salesperson, flag an invoice, add a late fee tag at 30 to 60 days. These are all examples of different automations that we've built for our clients. Like these are exact automations we've built for our clients. Kick off onboarding checklist when a contract's signed, pull weekly numbers. So these are exact systems that we built. Now for agents, same thing. New client intake answers in their own words and write a personalized roadmap or plan. That's reasonably higher complexity. And it takes a bit of time. So this is a bigger project. So we want to get this squared away. Skip down, read a support ticket, decide if it's a bug question, churn risk, and route it. Could be higher complexity. We need an AI to analyze it and check it out. So we'd have an agent, especially if it increases in time as well. Generate content. This is a really big one that we've run for ourselves and run for our clients. A lot of times these scripts, posts, and emails, high complexity. It takes a lot of time for a human to ideate the right pieces of content. It takes a lot of time to do content research. So in this case, an AI agent does a really good job of automating it. And lastly, let's move on to the last point here. We have build your first automation. We're not going to be talking about too much about AI agents in this video. If you want to learn more about that, I have so many more videos on this channel, as well as a school community where I teach you exactly how to do that. But in this case, we're just going to be talking about how to set up automations, right? Lowest hanging fruit, high time, low complexity. We're going to want to start out with a tool like Make or Zapier. These are two incredibly simple tools. If you're a little bit more complex, you can move into NAN. Quite honestly, it's very similar, and spending a couple hours on a weekend is enough to learn this technology. When I teach my engineers, I always say that I can teach you 80% of Make.com, Zapier, or NAN in 3 hours, but to get from 80% to 99%, it will take me 3 months. So just building out the basic workflows are incredibly simple, but getting them really good to solve the big projects or the AI agents takes a lot more time. And these are generally simple because of the drag and drop mechanics. So these are visual. I'll show you some examples soon. Now, as we go through the examples, I want you to visualize 3 things regarding automation. We have the trigger, the task, and the output. So the trigger will always define the first thing that starts the automation, whether it be a time schedule or a webhook or a button press. So it really depends. That's what starts the automation. The task is what happens throughout the automation, and the output is what happens to the data afterwards. Sometimes you won't have an output because maybe it's just a straightforward task, but majority of times you will have an output. Let's look at some examples. So here's an automation here. What's the trigger? So here is our trigger. And again, this is in Make.com. So you can see how you can visualize this workflow. It's just a bunch of bubbles. So our trigger here is working with Calendly, watch events. What this means is whenever somebody books a call or adds to a calendar, this automation runs. We're gonna wanna gather the SMS times. This allows us to gather what is the time zone of the person who booked. We're going to go into our closed CRM and search if the lead exists. And again, this entire section right here, this is the task that's going on. So we're gonna search the leads inside of the CRM. Then off of that data, we have an if-else statement. We're gonna say, if it exists, get the lead, right? If the lead already exists, we want to use that lead. We don't want to create duplicates. If it doesn't, else create the lead instead. So we have 2 different options. So we're able to branch off these ideas, merge them back together. And then once that lead is created, we now reach this output step where we want to create a record for that person, for that lead inside of our Airtable. And we also want to search the opportunity to see what opportunities have already been made for that client. Cool, simple example. Move on to this one. We're gonna breeze through these because these get a little bit more complicated, but hopefully you're getting the gist of how these automations work. We have this data store. This is on a timer. You can see this clock right here. So that's our trigger. If we move all the way to the output, you can see here that we wanna send a Slack message. So this informs somebody that the automation has ran. Every single step from there to there, this is our task. This is what someone manually did. So in step 1, when you wrote down everything you do, you're gonna wanna break that down into its subtasks and every single piece that you would have done normally. Just like in this case, we're going to access the Google Drive. They use a project management system called Carbon. They have a client team folder where we want to access that. We're gonna be saving variables from those data points, and so on and so forth. This will be completely custom to the way that you wanna build it for your own business. Now, if you're someone who'd just rather skip all of this and just have it handed for you, completely done for you, click the first link in the description to book a free automation audit call with me, where on that call, I'll find all the automations and the lowest hanging fruit, as well as the big projects that we can have started and built out for you that would save you the most amount of time possible for your business, as well as generate the most amount of revenue. So again, you can book a free automation audit call by clicking the link down in the description. And if you don't know where to start, then check out this video next, where I show you the 5 things that you can add to your automation list right now.